Welcome to Design, Material and Meaning, the podcast that explores the unique aura of design, fascinating materials and the senses that elevate them. My name is Claire Chinellato, industrial and luxury product designer, creative director based in Corsica. For this podcast, I invite businesses, entrepreneurs, creative souls and designers to awaken your curiosity and discover exciting creations and topics. Together, let's look at the world through a new lens, the lens of global design. Let's get started. Design. Nowadays, it must be said, the term is thrown around all too often. This drives me crazy because when I hear things like, wow, I love this lamp, this is so design, or that's such a super design style, or even, we'll create a design ad. What I actually hear is the equivalent of saying, wow, I love this croissant, this is so baker. Very clear, right? The word design has become a true catch-all term, far removed from being a mere adjective for beauty, and it's certainly not a synonym for expensive but stylish. I share a solid example of this a bit later. So, it's essential for me to use this podcast to share a global definition of this vast, incredibly useful, and uniquely specific field that is design. But Ben, what does the word design actually mean? The word design originates from the Latin designare, meaning to indicate or to draw, which also appears in Italian as disegno. The French term design is a contraction between drawings and purpose, which is dessin and dessin with the ending EYN. These homophones touch on the act of drawing or representing, as well as the idea of a conceptual plan or project. Design is a creative intellectual process aimed at meeting a need or solving a problem for users by conceiving and developing spaces, products, services, and user experiences. It considers their daily lives, habits, and several criteria: cultural, environmental, economic, technical, human, spatial, and more. What is commonly referred to as the design brief. To provide a few concrete examples of difficult problems businesses or public spaces might address with design, consider the following. How can I rethink my product's packaging to make it easier to transport? What brand identity will best convey my word and enhance my company's image? What kind of school should we offer young students to improve their learning and foster autonomy? How can we make upcoming conferences uniquely engaging for a younger audience? Or even, how can we redesign my city for 2050? As you can see, design can touch every domain and address both specific and highly complex challenges. It's a foundational approach before it's an aesthetic practice. Design involves empathy and ethics to better understand users and act responsively and respectfully. It brings together the necessary expertise for a project, forming a web of sensitive, technical, and tailored knowledge. In short, it's a 360-degree approach that consolidates various ideas to create the ideal solution. Understanding the work of a designer means diving into a fascinating process that combines analysis, creativity, and precision. Contrary to the simplistic image of a creator of trendy objects, design is a structured method. Whether it's about creating a product, enhancing a service, or transforming a space, every project follows key steps where user feedback and testing are crucial. It's hard for me to summarize design in just one podcast. In this episode, I will share the classic method designers use to carry out their projects and explore 6 major assets of the design field. Let's discover this methodical journey adaptable to each topic and need. First, analysis and understanding. The designer starts by analyzing the problem and the user's needs. This involves interviews, observation, or studies to understand the context, expectations, and constraints of the project. Second, ideation and concept exploration. This is a creative phase where the designer explores various ideas. Concepts are often shared with the stakeholder and tested with users to gather feedback. Testing and iteration are crucial phases in design because they allow designer and companies to ensure that the final solution truly fits the users and target audience. Third, solution development. The selected idea is refined and developed in detail. This stage may include creating prototypes or mock-ups to simulate the experience or usage. Fourth, launch and development. The finalized solution is implemented depending on the project, product, service, space, etc. The designer may accompany this phase to ensure the vision is respected. Iteration remains key throughout this project. By regularly testing and adjusting, the designer ensures the final result optimally meets users' expectations. These 4 major steps enable designers to successfully complete their projects, assuring businesses that the solution provided will be durable, effective, and impactful. Of course, other methods exist in the design field depending on the problem, audience, and subject. However, this approach will give you a better understanding of how designers practice their crafts. Now, let me share with you the 6 major assets of design. 1. Holistic approach. Design takes a global view of projects, ensuring coherence and sustainability. Whether it's about environment, functionality, experience, aesthetics, or environmental impacts, design acts as a mediator of knowledge, drawing on a network and experts to deliver well-thought and just solutions. Contrary to the cliché of a designer sketching futuristic forms in isolation, they often rely on collective intelligence. Designers collaborate with specialists from all possible fields: industrial, ethnology, psychiatry, medicine, engineering, architecture, craftsmanship, and more. This multidisciplinary approach gives design its depth and richness. What's truly remarkable is how this profession requires constant adaptation and a childlike curiosity, observing the world and continuously learning, a real treasure. 2. Human-centric impact. The second asset lies in its profound focus on humanity. Designers begin with in-depth analysis centered on people thought. To be fair, one can design for animal or for the environment as well. Observations, surveys, field studies, and user interviews provides critical insight that ensure coherence and the viability of proposed solutions. This approach enhances confidence, fluidity, and user experience. For instance, the ultra-lightweight and versatile Big Pen, which is French, was designed with a small hole in this cap. A seemingly insignificant detail, you might think, but actually prevents shocking hazards in children if swallowed. A simple yet thoughtful design that makes all the difference. If you recall the earlier image of design being expensive but stylish, I'm certain that the pen priced under €1 wasn't part of the picture in your mind. And yet, it's an excellent example of great design. 3. Advantage of design. What if I told you that this field is recognized for optimizing projects in business strategies? It's no wonder that the most impactful and long-lasting projects are often the ones that invite design to the table right from the start. Did you know that Singapore established a design council in 2003 to promote its development? This city-state is now renowned for its smart cities and innovative architecture. For years, the government has positioned design as a critical driver of innovation and has set an example on many fronts, including population aging and sustainable development. Integrating design into a company strategy is perfectly compatible with focusing on its users as long as you keep in mind that the purpose of design is to improve and facilitate people's lives, not to create unnecessary needs or gimmicky products. That's precisely why I mentioned ethics earlier in this episode. In design, we study, among other things, the positioning of a company's direct and indirect competitors. This approach helps take a step back from projects and strengthens internal strategies based on the data collected. A good example is IKEA, which has skillfully leveraged design expertise to gain a significant edge over its competitors. Through its DIY style concept, IKEA has truly provided added value to its users in terms of lifestyle, a classic case of killing two birds with one stone. The fourth advantage is that design is also a significant economic asset. Especially when it intervenes early in a project, design becomes a powerful development tool because it integrates and optimizes project budgets, prevents error and missteps in usability or user understanding, adapts material and services to ensure maximum durability, and makes concepts both more useful and attractive. A great example here is Airbnb, which brilliantly harnessed design thinking, particularly around users' experiences from its inception. Now a go-to platform for millions of travelers worldwide, Airbnb has refined how many people approach travel and vacations, significantly disrupting the hotel industry. Remarkably, Airbnb went to €200 in weekly revenue to $4.8 billion in net profit in 2023. They tailor concepts, projects, and spaces to ensure they're accessible and usable for as many people as possible. The fifth advantage, and perhaps one of the most critical, is that design fosters more responsible and sustainable solutions. Depending on the field, a concept's environmental impact can be reduced by more than 80% when a designer is involved. Solutions are systematically designed with sustainability in mind, taking into account recyclable materials, surface optimization, afterlife usability, product durability, maintenance, and packaging. Considering a product's life cycle is no longer optional, it's a necessity right from its conception. In fact, we're seeing more and more concepts and products today using waste as their primary resource. On this subject, I have so many examples to share that I don't even know where to begin. I would like to tell you about Studio Samuel Tomatis for its product variation made from green seaweed washed up from the beaches in France. There's also the work of Alexandra Echasserio, who transformed plastic waste from Madagascar using injection molding techniques for mass production, and her friend Flora Coel, who transforms Parisian ballets into furniture. You might also be familiar with the kits made from citrus peel at Pulp Design. Or maybe you know the New W collection created by Revol, which uses a new recycled ceramic paste. Anyway, there's so much to say on this topic. While the concept of aesthetic is firmly attached to design, despite it not being the central element of this practice, it remains important in the final stage of design. Because, as our dear Raymond Lewis used to say, ugliness doesn't sell well. This will be the sixth and final solution of this podcast. Let's admit it. We all tend to trust and use a concept, product, space, or service more easily if it follows aesthetic codes we appreciate, recognize, or are simply drawn to. You won't find many people who will tell you they like ugly cars that are incredibly comfortable. If you can have both without spending a fortune, that's definitely better. Good news, that's also the designer's job too. And it's not an easy task because beauty can be highly subjective depending on individuals and locations. Working with it requires a certain sensitivity, culture, and quite a bit of psychology. If one day you see a piece in a museum or catalog with a three-legged chair that costs 10,000 euros or dollars, it won't be designed even if it's beautiful. The image we project onto a service, space, or product often requires a lot of balance, especially when we enter the realm of less is more. A well-known phrase in our field, quoted by Miss van der Rohe, reminding us that the best thing is to do less. Aesthetics is no exception and must remain intelligent and sensible without resorting to extravagant, unnecessary, and superfluous forms. We've already reached the end of this episode on the definition of design and its advantages. I hope you enjoy listening to it and that your perspective on this field has been clarified and, dare I say, even enriched. So I count on you to stop saying that your poster is design or believing that design means stylish. If you think this episode is interesting, feel free to share it with a colleague or a friend during this last minute of listening. Don't hesitate to support the Design, Material and Meaning channel by giving feedback. It's always such a pleasure and it's always appreciated. See you very soon and stay curious.